啦，我哋今日嚟到 Andrew Work 嘅本週重點立法會項目時間，
冇問題。
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, we're ready.
You really want to do it in Cantonese?
It's going to be a tough one. It'll be a short conversation, mostly about my mother and my family and Tongsan, but...
But it's Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, yeah.
It's a sad day as well.
Why are you so sad?
We talk about the Dailang Saiwan incident today, and I think the government will lose out on this one. I mean, with Liberals, with DAB, with Wong Fat, I'm not sure.
There is hope because it's got to pass. This motion, if Wong Fat wants this to go forward, it has to pass in both functional and geographical. And usually it's the functional that gets a majority to block what the Democrats want to do. Right. But on this occasion, the Democrats have enough in the geographical that they can block it. This is what they this is a bicameral bill.
It is it's Wong Fat proposal.
Wong Fat proposal.
But the government bills they will do it together. The original proposal.
The original proposal will move as a government bill.
As a government bill. So
Wong Fat is outside of that.
Yeah, if a government bill, then you don't do split voting.
Right. So Wong Fat, he has to get support on both sides of the House, so to speak.
Okay.
He's not going to get it on the geographical side.
Even with DAPs and Liberal support?
No, still no. I think the Democrats will have it so that they'll be able to block it, so they don't get that over the hump, so to speak.
All right. So I'm not that sad now. Okay, we can go back to the English.
We'll see, but Hoi Ha, yeah. But Hoi Ha is still
is
going to be tough.
Yeah, going to get tough.
So
all right. So
what else is going on?
Yeah, what else is going on?
What's interesting is this whole issue about Hoi Ha and all this. Part of the reason it's so troublesome to find a decision or get people to make the right choices is because of how the political structure is arranged in Hong Kong, and that goes to constitutional reform. And that, of course, the government's going to be talking about that today. And we've all been waiting. Everybody's waiting to see what the consultation
everybody is saying that it's today.
Yeah. So we're going to advise people to have a look out for that one. But it's really been a bit of a mystery as to where everybody wants to go on this. Because everybody's trying to figure out with Beijing, not what they want so much, but what they will accept. And like all great political compromises, nobody's going to get what they want. But hopefully we can get something everybody can accept.
What's your take on that? Well, I have a series with more than 20 politicians now on political reform.
Yeah.
Since quite early on, since August, September. I mean, I haven't interviewed you. I mean, we should better interview you. You have any proposal in mind?
No, I'm not. I'm not going to put my pen to paper for that one. I have ideas, and my background, like everybody else, is colored by my experience. And
but your experience is from Canada.
A lot of it's from Canada. And in Canada, one of the things about Canada is that we have a constitution that's almost impossible to amend, because in that country you got 10 provinces, and each of the 10 provinces have to approve. So any one province can hold out for whatever they want, and that's what happened last time they tried to do it 20 years ago, and the experience was so traumatic they haven't tried to do it since then. But here in Hong Kong, I think we're going to get an incremental step. I don't think we're going to, we're not going to get the big blowout. I think we'll get something that everybody can just barely accept, and it's going to drive them nuts, but they'll accept it because it's a step forward. Now, whether or not that'll be enough for the more radical elements that are not part of the discussion, right, the Occupy Central types, that's a different question.
Yeah, the focus will be on the nomination committee.
Yes.
Okay, let me backtrack one thing. The constitutional reform actually composed of two parts. One is the chief executive election. One is the legislative council election. But I think the focus are primarily on the chief executive election.
Yeah.
It seems that people does not really care about how to elect legislators in 2016.
Yeah.
At this point in time.
At this point in time.
People are just focusing on the chief executive council election, or chief executive election in 2017.
Yeah.
Because it is our chance to have universal suffrage.
Yeah.
And the focus will be on how to form the nomination committee.
Yes.
And how the nomination committee will be nominating candidates. I think that's the key issues. The two big issues.
If the whole point is to have a choice, people want to have a genuine choice. Not a choice of, not fakey choices. Like, you can have anyone you want as long as it's black. The old Henry Ford thing. I think people are more focused on the chief executive because that's where the real power is. I think people aren't as obsessed with the functional constituencies right now because they recognize that if they got the chief executive issue sorted out, the functional would follow very quickly.
I think the key will be, I always talk about this concept. Maybe I would like to share with you. I call it the mob concept.
The mob concept. Yeah.
Mob stands for MOB.
Right.
Make or break.
Okay, not the mafia type mob.
Not the mafia type
Okay.
mob. But it's very close.
Okay.
I mean, because of the issues that you have to handle in constitutional reform
Yeah.
are so many.
Yeah.
I mean, there are legislative council elections, which are many issues,
Right.
which people are not going to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And even for the chief executive election,
Yeah.
which is supposed to be easier,
Yeah.
simplified,
Supposed to be. Yeah.
but it's still very complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
So at the end of the day, with people attention span shrinking and all that, it will boils down to one single issue
yeah.
by the time people vote.
Right.
And I call that point
Usually.
the mob point.
Okay. The mob point. The make or break point.
It may not make sense.
Yeah.
But people will just focus on one single issue.
It happens all the time.
It happens last time.
Yeah.
Right? By the time the Democrats talk to the Chinese authority,
Yeah.
they just focus on whether they will get that 5 new seats
Yeah.
in the Legislative Council.
Right.
Basically, being voted by everyone, every voters in Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Every voters in Hong Kong. I mean, that's the only issues. I mean,
Yeah.
back then, nobody cares about the chief executive election.
Yeah.
Chief
Yeah.
executive election.
Not so much.
Yeah. Well, this time, I'm thinking, what will be the more point? What will be the make or break issue
Yeah.
in
For
this
one.
thing? And I am thinking
Yeah.
the best make or break point we can get
Yeah.
is not whether we as an individual can nominate.
Right.
I mean, some Democrats are trying to push it to individual nomination.
Sure. California style.
Yeah, this is, even in the States, is not very common.
Not
in
so
a way.
common, but big places like California have it.
Big places
produces
like
some
California.
pretty crazy
Yes.
nominations.
Yes.
Porn stars and
Yep.
even an actor can
Well,
become governor.
I can understand why people want it.
Yeah.
I mean, but if this is the make or break point,
Yeah.
then it will be certainly a break, not a make.
Yeah.
I think repeatedly the Chinese authority almost said it.
Yeah.
If you focus on individual nomination, it's
You're
definitely
not going to
a
get
break.
there.
Yeah.
But then what will be acceptable? Like I said,
Yeah.
what will be barely acceptable?
Yeah.
Michael DeGourier, he has something that I've heard him talk about a number of times, is that he says that when in the functional constituencies, once the voter base goes beyond about between 3,000 and 5,000,
Yep.
it's kind of a breaking point, it becomes impossible for Beijing to control.
Yep. That was a few years back. I read that too.
Yeah,
I read that
and
too.
he's kept that lineup. So the question is, if they could expand that nomination committee to the point where it was not perceived, the reality doesn't really matter. The perception has to be that it's not controllable by Beijing, that we are getting genuine choices. But how do we get there?
Yeah, but my take, I agree with you first of all. But my take is that the make or break point, I use the short form, the mob point,
Yeah,
will very likely, I think, whether the nomination committee will keep the 4 big groups, the 4 categories.
yeah.
You know the 4 categories,
Labor.
right? The first group is the wealthiest group,
Yeah,
the finance and business and
the business group.
Yeah, and then the second one is professional.
Right.
The third one is the civil society, basically religious
Yeah.
leaders and social workers,
Yeah.
teachers, and
the
the fourth group,
miscellaneous.
and
Yeah.
political is the 4th group. So the 4 groups, I think, if we can keep it, then it is very possible we may be able to make it.
You think Beijing might find that acceptable?
They want to have the 4 groups, I think. I
Yeah.
mean, from what I have read so far.
Yeah.
Not from what I have heard.
Yeah,
I haven't
yeah.
heard
Yeah.
anything, but I have read a lot of things.
Yeah.
But if the Democrats or the pan-Democrats wants to basically break down these 4 compartments,
Yeah.
then it's basically a Titanic. I mean, the Titanic will have 4 compartments.
Yeah.
But if you want to break the 4 compartments, if you want to slide it in the middle,
Break it all up.
break it all up, then we'll hit an iceberg.
Yeah, it'll be too tough, I think, for Beijing to accept because it just gets too messy and
You
too hard
agree
for
with
them to
that too?
control. Yeah, because they're going to find it hard to control at that point. They look at that and they see this uncontrollable mess. If it's neat little categories, they can kind of
All right.
organize it better.
To combine what you have just said about Michael DeGoyer, about if you have 3,000 to 5,000 members in the nomination
Yeah.
committee, you won't be able to influence or control
Right.
as much. What if
Okay.
we go for 3,000 nomination committee
Ah,
members,
just at the
but
yeah
we still divided them into 4 groups. Let's say 750 to 800
right.
for each group. So together you have 3,000 to 3,200.
Yeah.
But 700 to 800 is still controllable within that thing. I mean, what would Michael say? I didn't know.
I don't know. Well, you know, now that I think about it, and going back,
but I'm so glad we have such
It's,
conversation. It's more intellectual conversation rather than emotional conversation. I would say. And thanks for raising Michael's point.
Well, it becomes very technical, you know, and you know, but it really does come down to the perception, right? Because what we're talking about is legitimacy of the chief executive, right? I think maybe if they did want to put together a good nomination committee, one way they could have done it is if, you know, we talked about this on Monday. If Simon Chin, he had 1,000 people at his wedding, if he had 3,000 people, I think, bam, you got your nomination committee right there.
All right.
Everybody at the wedding get together. You know, that could be your nomination committee.
And it's not even 1,200.
Not even, but I mean, it was balanced. It was balanced. It was well balanced. We just put Simon in charge. Simon's wedding planner is in charge of the nomination committee, and then everybody would be
just
happy.
sign in that list.
Yeah,
sign in the guest list.
Absolutely.
To the government.
Yeah, I think you'll be okay with that.
Let's use nomination as the keyword for today.
Wedding planner / election commission.
Yeah. And they will go to the convention center anyway.
Yeah, to sort it all out.
Yeah.
So there we go.
More.
They're already there. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone.
All right.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Vincent.
Nomination is the keyword for today.